Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen,
you're a Bitcoin maximalist. You're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together, I know we can find them.
Down in competition in the ratings tab for late night weekend viewers.
hey everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome to Rob Nelson Live on a Monday night. It's Monday. I keep thinking it's Tuesday, but it's not. It's Monday. And all my tech is going cuckoo sideways right now. That's all I got to say. So you're going to have to bear with me for a second while I make my tech work. What happens if my tech doesn't work? I don't know. Then I just ramble. You guys want me just to ramble? I can do that too. Okay, sorry, we're having some issues here. My bad, everybody. I should just start this whole thing over because this is a train wreck of a beginning of a show. That's all I got to tell y'all. Let's go back to a whole different version of what I'm going to talk about. My birthday was last week, and my birthday is on October 9th. So who else is this not the worst version ever? This is like a fucking joke machine here with all my stuff falling. My birthday is on October 9th. Same birthday as John Lennon, Jackson Brown, and Megan Maroney. I have the singer's birthday. That's what I like to say. And I have I'm going to have like a 6 degree of separation from Rob Nelson, like a weird connection to all of them. So John Lennon, this is a stretch. John Lennon lived around the block from me on the Upper West Side of New York. The Dakota was literally on the like I'm on 72nd and Columbus, and he's on, you know, around the corner on this side. Except he died long before I lived there. So I guess that's a weak connection. But I would walk around the block in front of where he walked out in front of his place and got shot. But that's a stretch, I acknowledge. That's a real stretch. Jackson Browne, not so much of a stretch. Jackson Browne, I'm an older guy. I'm old Generation X. Jackson Browne used to, I'm doing this. I'm moving the camera so I can get more of me in. Yeah, I like it better that way. Ooh, everybody on the ride, everybody on the Drunken Rob ride. As everything goes cuckoo. This will be the tech show that wasn't. See strange things entering the screen, UFOs. Unidentified flying objects, now called unidentified aerial phenomenon. Why did they change the name? What's up with that? Think you're going to fool us? If we don't call them UFOs anymore, we call them UAPs. Same thing. Anyway, back to Jackson Browne. Jackson Browne, born on my birthday. When I was a teenager, if you know Jackson Browne, he was a great singer, actually. He had that song Running on Empty. Running on Empty, do-do-do. It was all about kind of running out of gas. That's rocket science. It was all about, you know, like kind of life and, you know, like trying to catch up and you're running behind. But I'm always running behind. You don't want me doing karaoke. And I used to listen to the song as a teenager when the song came out, how old I am, and dance in the living room and do the electric guitar thing, you know, like, you know how every kid does that. Why does everybody mimic the electric guitar? I don't know. We like to mimic instruments, to the drums, boom, 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 you know. When I was a kid, you just had to do it regularly. You didn't have like, you know, you couldn't do it in a video where you could see yourself doing it, you know, in a game. And the strange connection was when I launched Lead or Leave, my political campaign in the 90s that you know helped define Generation X. I met Jackson Browne through Val Kilmer, who was the recently, you know, deceased movie star from Top Gun and, you know, and so on. Jackson Browne and I became friends. And we were sitting I was sitting in the living room of the house where I grew up on a Christmas Eve. Well, I no longer live there, obviously. I'm like in my late 20s. And talking. And I'm like, I'm standing in the exact place. And by the way, this is when you still had cord phones. So the cord phone into the room. I'm like, I'm standing in the exact place where I used to air guitar to your song Running on Empty. He's like, that's kind of trippy. I thought it was. So that's a closer connection. Megan Maroney. But Jackson Browne introduced me to David Crosby. And David Crosby from Crosby, Stills and Nash, teach your children well. I know the karaoke thing's going to kill you. Don't worry. The whole show will not be me singing. David Crosby, when I was at like 11 or 12, I wanted to play the guitar because I thought it was cool. So I got this guitar my sister had in her, like sitting on her thing. And it was an old, like wooden, plasticky, and it had plastic strings, not metal, plastic. And I tried to play it and I got a book and it had pictures, and Teach Your Children Well was one of them. And Teach Your Children Well is like 3 chords. It's like A, C, D or something, or A, C, E. And it was really easy to like see the pictures, and I couldn't make it make any, it just was like, it was horrible sounding. I was like, I can't even play this, the sound of this with pictures showing me how. And I was like, I'm doomed. Worse than my singing. I'll never play again. Cut to around this time with the Jackson Browne story, I meet David Crosby, and I'm pitching my campaign Lead or Leave to him and Christian Slater, who at the time was a big young star. Had just done, he'd done a slew of movies and had just done True Romance with Patricia Arquette. That's a story for another day, me and Patricia. I was really going hard on Christian to like get behind us, because he was like, I'm just an actor. I'm like, you have a voice. You're like an influencer, before the word influencer existed. And David Crosby looked at me and he's like, motherfucker. He's like, good for you. We've been waiting for a generation for someone to come along and do what you're doing. I mean, remember, they were Woodstock. They were the 60s. They were, Crosby, Stills, and Nash was a politically definitional band. And he's like, we've been waiting for someone to come along and do it. And all I could think of was being 12 and not being able to play that stupid song he wrote. I later told him the story. I went and had breakfast with him, like whatever, a couple days later, and I told him. He started laughing. I was like, all I could think of was I couldn't play Teach Your Children Well. I'm a total failure. And suddenly, decades later, the guy who wrote it and sang it is like, wow, you've come along and you've become the next generational movement. Sadly, it didn't go very far. We're going to get to that in a minute. I have to do the final one, Megan Maroney, to bring it present, the country singer. She was mentored by Kenny Chesney, who was married to Renee Zellweger for less than a year. He got married and got annulled. He said later he didn't realize what marriage was all about. Like he got married, realized I'm not up for this. Took no time to bail out. I don't know. I know some people like that. Renee Zellweger was in Jerry Maguire. And I dated Connie Britton for a while, the actress, and she was the runner-up to Renee Zellweger. And she always said she nailed the audition and had the director's blessing, and even did a read opposite Tom Cruise, but the part went to Renee Zellweger. That's my connection there. That and my chocolate lab lives in a place in California that a show that called Dirty John, that Connie played the woman who lived in the house, was about decades later. All that. And why does it come to this? It comes to the remaining hostages, 13 have all been released. And that means all 20 living hostages have been freed. There is a point to my story. It's about the transition of generations, generational time. I make a joke about, a generation ago. I'm a generation before the millennials, 2 generations before Gen Z. I talk about back in the 90s, these relationships and the evolution of the time over them. And me at that time, looking back a generation. Life lives in generations, generational cycles. The Middle East has been a generational cyclone train wreck between Israel and the rest of the Middle East for generations. Literally almost since it began, the birth of the Jewish state. In the 40s. Pretty much ever since then. So I guess we'd be looking at 4 generations. And that's just recent conflict. You want to go all the way back? That conflict goes deep, right? I mean, you're talking in some ways like centuries of conflict. But more recently, generations and generations. And every generation hopes for peace in a region. Every generation hopes that region, worldwide, hopes that region will have peace, and it never does. It never does. It just cycles on and on. The 70s, Jimmy Carter, the peace deal, Egypt and Israel. Oh, now we're going to have peace. Boom. Not for long. I mean, Egypt and Israel didn't fight, but not for long. The cycle continued. The cycle of violence, the cycle of destruction, the cycle of hatred. I mean, my story is a happy story. Mine's a cycle of fun little connections. I'm going to write a book, 6 Degrees of Separation, from Rob Nelson, replacing Kevin Bacon. And if you're too young, you'll be like, what? What's 6 Degrees of Separation from Kevin who? Footloose is the Kevin Bacon. 6 Degrees is everybody has 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. That's the theory in the whole world. Test it out. Maybe you do too. Generations and generations. And each new generation carries the burdens of the last one and the biases and the hatred and the hopes. And the hopes got smaller and smaller, and the burdens got heavier and heavier, and the hatred got deeper and deeper, and the violence just kept going. Don't bullshit me. Nobody thought Trump was going to pull this off. Nobody thought anyone was going to pull this off. Everybody had it planned out. Israel's going to go and finally demolish Gaza. All you on the left, come on, own it up. Genocide. It's genocide, and they're not stopping till every last Palestinian is underneath the rubble. Oh, it's an excuse they're going after Hamas. Yes, Hamas screwed up. Shouldn't have jumped the fence and slaughtered 1,200 people, chopped babies up and cut women's body parts off and raped everybody. But aside from that, good pretext to go wipe out the Palestinians, which you've always wanted to do. That's what everybody thought was going to happen. That was an inexorable force. 2 inexorable forces moving toward one another. One, this massive, mighty, powerful Israeli military machine against the little Gazans, little Palestinians, But the Palestinians were an immovable force, backed by Hamas, backed by an insurmountable hatred. We will not stop until one hits the other. Well, we knew how that was going to end. This one here, the Palestinian, was going to get steamrolled under the other and then smolder underneath the ground and pop back up again. Nobody thought peace was going to happen. But it did. I'm not saying how long it lasts. Nobody thought it would get this far. All the hostages have been released. The dead ones, they're going to return. Israel's pulled its forces back. Aid is coming in massive amounts into Gaza. Israel's released, a couple thousand Palestinians, including 250 people that they consider terrorists. Trump said, they're all tired of fighting. Don't forget, you had October 7th, horrible day, 1,200 people killed. But Hamas has lost 58,000. That's big retribution. That's big retribution. People understand that. Such a classic Trump phrase. I don't say it like he would. I'm like, that's big retribution. He's like, that's big. It's huge. He gets it. We all get it. Everybody pretends they don't get it. Was the response disproportionate? Maybe, yeah. Big retribution. It was retributive. It was retributive. It was, you did this. You killed more of our people than anything has since the Holocaust. The number might be 1,200. We're getting payback. People were like, okay, 58,000. Now it's getting a little steep. Yeah, that's payback. Was it big retribution? Yeah. Nobody was winning in this thing. Everybody thought Netanyahu wasn't stopping till he had the whole thing wiped out, done, every last Hamas person, every last Palestinian, like I said, under the rubble. Not the case. Donald Trump arrived in Israel this morning, and he addressed Israel's parliament, the Knesset. I mean, there are banners flying all over Israel. I think Netanyahu or somebody said, no, it wasn't that. It was a CNN reporter said Donald Trump might be more popular in Israel than he is in the U.S. And he's pretty popular here, despite the fact that a lot of people like to pretend, he's got this minority thing called the MAGA people. He's got the majority of the country behind him. Netanyahu said Trump is the greatest friend the state of Israel has ever had in the White House. Well, that means going right on back to Roosevelt and, well, I guess technically Truman. Truman, not Roosevelt. Greatest friend, every president we've ever had was Donald Trump. And then later in the day, he goes to Egypt, stands among the leaders of Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey, and signs the Gaza peace plan for peace in the Middle East. What'd they call it? They called it I can't find it. They have a funny name for it. It's called I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it. And then I'm going to back up and tell you all my other stuff I was going to say about it. But it's called the peace. Here it is. The Declaration for Enduring Peace and Prosperity. I'd never remember that one. I'm dyslexic. The Declaration for Enduring Peace and Prosperity. Trump signed it. The president of Egypt signed it. The emir of Qatar signed it. And the Turkish president signed it. And they said, it says, we understand that lasting peace will be one in which both Palestinians and Israelis can prosper with their fundamental human rights protected, their security guaranteed, and their dignity upheld. Both Palestinians and Israelis. Now, does that happen? I don't know. But this is an acknowledgement that both. Sorry, all you who are praying for Trump to complete the genocide so you could be convinced he's Hitler. I don't think Hitler would support that kind of a document. Let's have lasting peace where the Jews and the non-Jew Germans can all live together and last. I don't see that document being signed or promoted. No, Trump wasn't backing genocide, nor was Netanyahu trying to have genocide. Netanyahu was after retribution, don't get me wrong. And no one understands retribution better than Donald Trump. He understands payback, big time. All you people who weaponize the justice system are getting payback big time. I'm not happy about it. I don't want to see that payback. But you guys started it out there who did it. You guys who insisted you could get away with it, who did it on the left, who did it with COVID, who did it propping Biden up, lie, and then went after anybody who said truth because you didn't want it out there. You guys, whoever you are, you all started that. I am not saying it's all on Democrats. That's such a weak way to put it. It is on people, mostly on the left, who started this. Not all Democrats at all. You started it, you're getting the payback. Trump understands retribution. Netanyahu wanted retribution. He was sick and tired of watching Israelis get hammered day after day. It's like, yeah, we're going to push back. We're going to put up barriers. We're going to keep control over Gaza. Not because we want to run you guys like a child, like we want like a little group of people to manage. We just don't want you bombing us anymore. It's getting tiring having air raid sirens go off in Tel Aviv. Anybody in here, I wish all the people who are like pro-Palestine would go live somewhere where you're getting air raid signals every other day because somebody's missiles coming in or somebody's going to blow themselves up in the shopping center with you there. It's worse than a drive-by shooting. It's worse than a shooter. He's a shooter. You see the gun come out, you can take cover. The suicide bomber, they just go boom and you're all dead. Pieces of body parts everywhere. Back to the document. We affirm that meaningful progress emerges through cooperation and sustained dialogue, and the strengthening bonds among nations and people serves enduring interests of regional and global peace and stability. This is the part I found interesting. We recognize the deep historical and spiritual significance of this region to the faith communities whose roots are intertwined with the land of the region. Well, we know what that is, all three: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Respect for these sacred connections and the protection of their heritage sites shall remain paramount in our commitment to peaceful coexistence. This hasn't happened. Not even Carter and Egypt and Israel was going this far. This has been the thorn in the side of everybody. This has been the tension of the Middle East that couldn't go away. I mean, Saudi Arabia and Israel are getting close to considering a peace agreement. They're officially not yet. Then the October 7th, and then the retribution, that deal was off the table. Not anymore. That deal might be back on the table. Bill Clinton didn't hold back. I'm grateful that a ceasefire has taken hold, that the hostages have been freed, aid's begun to flow into Gaza. President Trump and his administration, Qatar, and other regional actors deserve great credit for keeping everyone engaged until the agreement was reached. And he made a logical point. He said, watching the October 7th and then the reigniting of the conflict have resulted in unbearable human loss. It's been hard to watch and nearly impossible to rationalize. Well, that's Bill Clinton. I knew him. He feels your pain. But that's an honest statement from him. I knew the guy. That's hurting. This hurt anybody who watched. I don't care how pro-Israel. Well, it didn't hurt some people who were super on the pro-Hamas side here in our country. But if you were, even if you're pro-Israel, it has to hurt to watch Gaza go to rubble. You may not have a whole lot of feelings for the Hamas terrorists who are trying to bomb people, but they're hiding behind civilians in schools and churches and hospitals. You're watching kids walk around with body parts missing, hungry, starving in the rubble. It breaks anybody's heart to watch, even if Israel could justify the retribution. It's painful to watch. Donald Trump put an end to it. Clinton wasn't the only one. Hillary said it. This one caught me off guard. I really commend President Trump, as well as Arab leaders in the region, for making the commitment to the 20-point plan and seeing a path forward for what's often called the day after. That's Hillary Clinton on CBS with Norah O'Donnell. She was the Secretary of State. She knows how hard that battle was over there. Kamala got there. Took her a while, Kamala style. I'll read the whole thing because it takes her all the way to the end. I don't think we should hold any back credit where it's due. First of all, let me say about that deal. I really do hope it becomes real and the hostages are out. Well, they are now. She wrote this before. That Gaza is no longer being treated with such brutality of force that aid goes in. The aid is going in. The troops have pulled back. And I commend the people who have been part of this process. I commend the Qataris, the Egyptians, and the president. She got it, and the president, the last little line. All right, but she's bitter. She got the crap kicked out of her. She's been humiliated. Her career's been taken down. Even she spit it out. Hillary, lock her up, Hillary. It's like, first line, I commend the president. You know, that's some heavyweight people. Chuck Schumer went there. You know who didn't go there? Mandani. Yeah. Chuck Schumer. I commend the enormous advocacy of the tireless hostage families, President Trump, his administration, and all who helped make this happen. Mandani running for mayor of New York. First, he didn't say anything. Andrew Cuomo called him out and said, you haven't said anything. Like, the day's almost over and you haven't said a word. Really? Got no comment to make? You're not an anti-Semitic? You don't hate the Jews in the city you're going to run, which is all the most Jews in the world. It's one city except for Jerusalem or in Israel. So he finally says something, and he goes on about how scenes of Israelis and Palestinians are profoundly moving, hostages being freed, families reunited, the first days in Gaza without relentless Israeli bombardment of Palestinians, families freed from detention. And then he had to go there. He never compliments Trump or gives him any credit. We have watched as our tax dollars have funded a genocide. The moral and human cost will be a lasting stain and requires accountability and real examination of our collective conscience and our government's policies. Geez, you'd think it was slavery. Our tax dollars have funded a genocide. No, they haven't, Mandami. That's the whole point. You're so stuck in your own vibrational circle, which I'll say people on the right can be too, just in this case on this topic. You can't see. You can't see the forest for the trees. If your family, if your community, if you're mayor of New York and your city was savagely beaten down by a bunch of thugs who weren't Arab, let's just say they were white supremacists, and they came from a big clan of white supremacists, you'd make sure every single one of them was bashed to pieces. You'd say you'd follow the rule of law, but you wouldn't if you could get around it. Well, in this case, you can get around it. When one country attacks another, you can attack back. That's the rule of law in the international world. You're allowed to do it. How far you go? Well, that you could decide to go farther or not too far. It wasn't genocide. It was never meant to be genocide. And this peace treaty, this deal will show that it's not genocide. It will show that we can rebuild Gaza. That's the second piece of this, is now they start the rebuild. And everybody's in on it. Everybody's in on it. The Arab states are in on it. Saudi Arabia is going to start considering a peace deal with Israel. Israel's in on it. They're going to pull the troops back. Hamas has been decimated enough that they really don't have a power play to make. Hopefully they don't try and throw a few bottle rockets over the thing. They might, but it ain't going to get them very far. Time magazine unveiled its new cover, and they have hammered Trump so many times. He's on the cover, and it's called His, capital H, Triumph, capital T. Trump's having a heyday today. He has, like, told you also. And he's an egomaniac. He's loving this. I'm not saying Trump's like the greatest human being ever, but let's give credit where credit's due. The art of the deal worked. He just made peace, even forever how long it lasts. It's never come this far with these two in the Middle East. It's beyond historic. Trump said the deal may become a signature achievement of Trump's second term. That's an understatement. If it doesn't, wow, time's expecting even more. And it could mark a strategic turning point for the Middle East. And that's the point. It is a strategic turning point. There's an opportunity, and everybody sees it right now. Opportunity to take hold, to make a shift, to realign after generations. Back to my generational theme. I told you it would come back, guys. I said I wouldn't leave it. To come back to fixing something that's decades and decades in. Yes, there's a lot of hatred, and there's a lot of resentment, and there's a lot of hatred and resentment on both sides. But this is that first step. And you know, there is hatred and probably a lot of resentment among young Arabs, understandably, toward Israel. And they've also been brainwashed to, like, think it's all Israel's fault. But they're also walking around in body parts and dead parents. And, like, there's a lot of hatred there. And it's understandable where that comes from. You're pissed when your people, friends, lovers, and family get blown to shreds. Whatever the reason. It's like, I didn't do it. Trump got a standing ovation from the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. I left out the one other person who didn't mention Trump. Want to take a guess? Who didn't mention Trump? Hillary did. Clinton did. President Clinton. Kamala did. Chuck Schumer did. Oh, Obama doesn't mention Trump. Politics is so personal. It's so petty and so personal. You know what? Do the right thing. Acknowledge the significance of this and acknowledge the only person who made this happen. There is nobody with their head half out of their butt above the sand who doesn't recognize that this doesn't happen without Donald Trump. And I'm not saying this like some conservative Trump supporter. I'm saying this like I did my show about reality, hope, denial, all that. This is reality. You can't deny that Trump made this happen. Nobody's denying it. Obama's not saying it, but he knows. The leaders who made it happen are acknowledging it. Even the Arab leaders are acknowledging it. He leveraged his relationships and made this happen. That's simple. He willed it into being. He used pressure, force, threats, carrots, sticks, deal making, and he made what nobody thought could happen. Abby Phillips, who is no Trump supporter, she's the CNN anchor. She actually is interesting to watch. She tries to keep conversations fair. And since Trump's a racist, we should note she's black. I'm noting that simply for those of you who don't know who she is, because, of course, why would a black person say something nice about Trump unless they were brainwashed and an Uncle Tom, which she's neither. Honestly, it's not unfair to say, this is her, if President Obama is going to write a whole post about a peace deal, maybe he should acknowledge the president who brokered it. She was questioned why. She said, I think if you can't say that ending a deadly war that has killed so many children and human beings is a good thing, I think you need to take a look at your gut and find out what's going on there. Everybody wants this to end. And if he's able to get it done, he deserves credit for it. And it should be no problem saying that President Trump is responsible for it. You don't have to endorse everything he says. There's a thing that he's done that's important for the world. It's pretty straightforward thing to say. I don't think it's all that controversial. She's dead on right. You're not going to like him. Jake Sullivan, national security veteran under Biden, who Trump ridiculed, said, I give credit to President Trump. And he gave it to Witkoff and Jared Kushner and Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. He's like, the president of the United States is the hardest job in the world. And to get to something like today takes a village, and it takes determination and really hard work. And so I, without question, offer credit for that. Good for them. Even Chris Cillizia from former CNN. If you can't give Donald Trump credit for what he did on Hamas and Israel, you are a totally blind partisan. Well, some of them are. And that's sad. And that goes back to the problem I've said for a long time we have, which is the partisanship that won't let us see past it for certain people. Obama can't see past it. Kamala managed to see past it at the very end and get the president in there as the last thing. At least she snuck it in. Yeah, kind of okay. I sort of admit it. It's got to end. And this is a metaphor for what can happen in our world. This should be a great day for people to celebrate the possibility of hope without denial. Like I was saying the other day, seeing the truth. These are two bitterly divided, generation back peoples, religiously divided. They don't have to be religiously, but they are, and politically divided, territorially, and then because of all the conflict and violence, there's a whole lot of resentment and hatred. And they found a way to take a huge step toward peace. And the second step is a permanent peace plan to rebuild Gaza. I'm going to make a prediction. If we stick to this and do it right, and if more people start getting on the bandwagon instead of only jumping on the bandwagon they like and kicking the other one to the side, I could see in the next few years, we start seeing progress. And in 5 years, maybe 10 at the most, we see a totally flourishing Gaza, a beautiful place, growing and living side by side with Israel. Is that a pipe dream? No. Is it hope? Yes. And like I said the other day, hope is not living in denial. I recognize the obstacles, the risk, the difficulty that we're going to face going forward here. But hope is refusing to let those issues define that outcome. And already we're seeing with this peace deal, that exact thing happening. Not a guy who would generally say Donald Trump is a guy full of hope. He's a bit of a pragmatist, and you could say all kinds of bad things about him. He can be a blowhard. He can be a lot of things. He's a great deal maker. Don't anyone ever say he's not. He has a way with making things happen and understanding people's best interest, forcing it to be. And I'm now going to say, I think the guy has a big spark of hope in him. I think all that stuff when he says, we got to stop the killing, it's not right. That's his hope speaking. It's kind of very matter of fact, but it's his hope speaking. We need the hope, guys. Not the Obama hope and change, because Mr. Hope and Change couldn't acknowledge who made this hope and change happen here. I got hope for this. If we do it right, we're going to see the world start changing. First day in a while on all this stuff. I'm not feeling like our divisions have to end us. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all on Wednesday. It's Rob Nelson Live.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen,
If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together,